You've cried silent tears that nobody saw. You've carried weights that nobody knew existed. But I came to tell you, God saw it all. Every sleepless night, every hidden struggle, every moment you said, Lord, I can't take it anymore. And he sent me to remind you, your pain has an expiration date. Peace is on its way. Sometimes life hits so hard that even your soul feels bruised. You smile on the outside, but inside you're breaking. You pray. The answers seem delayed. You help others while you're barely holding on yourself. Let me tell you, just because God is silent doesn't mean he's absent. There's a season where God allows the breaking, not to destroy you, to rebuild you. You see, pain is the doorway to purpose. Every tear you've cried is watering the seed of your next breakthrough. You may not see it now. While you're hurting, God is healing. While you're waiting, he's working. Don't you dare give up now. The same God who saw your pain is about to turn your mourning into movement, your wounds into wisdom, and your pressure into peace. Because when God gets ready to bring peace, he doesn't whisper it. He commands it into your storm. God sees what others can't. There are moments in life when it feels like nobody understands the weight you're carrying. You walk into a room, smile, nod, say, I'm fine. But inside you're breaking into 1,000 unseen pieces. People see your strength, but they don't see the nights when you curl up in silence, wondering if anyone truly cares. They see your ladder. They don't see how hard it is to keep standing when your spirit is tired. You've learned how to hold yourself together in public and fall apart in private. You've been surrounded by people yet felt completely alone. I want you to know something. God sees it all. He doesn't just see your face. He sees your heart. He sees beyond the smile you wear for the world. He sees the thoughts you never dared to say out loud. He knows the silent screams that echo through your soul when no one else is listening. He knows the story behind every scar, the reason behind every tear, the battle behind every breath you take. When others misunderstand you, when they misjudge your motives or fail to notice your pain, God does not. His eyes are not blind to your suffering, and his heart is not numb to your hurt. You may feel invisible to the world, but you are never invisible to him. Long before anyone noticed your struggle, he was already watching over you. Before the words of disappointment were spoken, before the betrayal took place, before the storm began, God saw it coming. Even though he allowed you to walk through it, he never let you walk through it alone. Every tear that has fallen has been counted. Every sigh that escaped your lips has been heard. Every moment you felt abandoned, he's been standing right beside you, whispering, I'm here. People look at the outside, at what you wear, what you own, how you appear. But God looks at the inside. He sees your exhaustion, your sacrifice, your faith that's been stretched thin. He knows the battles you fight in silence, the ones between your faith and your fear, your hope and your heartbreak. Others might call you strong because you keep showing up, but God calls you faithful because you keep believing even when it hurts. When the world forgets you, God remembers you. When people turn away, he turns toward you. You may have been overlooked, but you are never unseen. Some of the greatest pain in life comes not from what happens to us, but from how people respond when it does. You expected comfort, but got criticism. You hoped for understanding, but received judgment. You needed arms to hold you, but all you found were empty hands. But while they turned away, God turned his attention fully on you. He saw what they missed, the depth of your pain, the purity of your intention, and the sincerity of your struggle. God knows what it's like to be misunderstood. He's watched you be loyal to people who were never loyal to you. He's seen you pour yourself into others and get nothing back. He's seen you forgive what broke you, love through rejection, keep giving even when your heart was tired. And though the world may not reward that kind of endurance, heaven takes note of every act of love you give in the middle of your pain. You see, sometimes God hides your struggle from others on purpose, because if everyone could see it, they might try to fix what only he can heal. He wants you to depend on his vision, not theirs. While others see the surface, he sees the root. While others see the failure, he sees the faith it took to keep going. While others see the broken pieces, he sees the masterpiece he's forming through the breaking. When you feel forgotten, remind yourself that God's eyes have never left you. Even in the silence, He's watching. Even in the waiting, He's working. The same God who watched over you as a child when you didn't even know how to pray is the same God who's watching over you right now. You are never out of His sight, never out of His reach, never out of His care. There's a reason you're still standing after everything that tried to break you. It's not luck. It's not coincidence. It's because God saw what was coming and already made a way for you to survive it. He placed strength inside you before the storm ever began. He knew the tears would come, so He built your spirit to rise after the rain. He knew the heartbreak would cut deep, so He filled you with a peace that would heal you from within. You are not unseen. You are divinely watched over. God's vision is not limited by distance or darkness. Even when you walk through your darkest valley, His eyes are on you. Even when you're surrounded by confusion and can't see a way out, He sees the path clearly. He knows where you've been, where you are, and where He's taken you. Nothing about your life is hidden from Him, not your mistakes, not your fears, not your doubts. And still, He loves you. Still, He calls you His own. So when it feels like nobody understands your pain, when you feel unseen, unheard, or unappreciated, remember this: God knows every detail of your struggle. He saw the moment you began to break, and He's already preparing the moment you'll be restored. He saw the pain that others caused, and He's already arranging your peace, what others can't see. God not only sees, He's using it to shape you, because in His eyes, your pain is not wasted. It's working for something greater. And one day, soon, the same people who couldn't see your pain will witness your peace. They'll wonder how you made it, how you're still standing, how you're smiling again. You'll know it wasn't them who carried you. It was the one who saw you all along. Your tears have a voice. You may not realize it, but every tear that falls from your eyes speaks louder than words ever could. There are moments when your pain runs so deep that you can't find the language to describe it. You sit in silence, staring at nothing, trying to make sense of what you're feeling, and all that comes out are tears. But here's what you need to understand. Those tears are not wasted. They are not unnoticed. They are not ignored. God hears every tear you cry. He interprets the language of your soul when your lips can't form the words. Your tears are prayers that travel straight to His heart. When you cry, heaven listens. There are tears you've cried in the middle of the night when no one else was there, and you thought nobody saw you. But God saw. You didn't have the strength to explain what you were going through, so you just wept. You didn't know what to say, so you just let the tears fall. You thought it was weakness, but in truth, it was worship. Because those tears were your soul's way of saying, God, I still trust you, even though I don't understand. Every tear carries emotion, faith, and surrender. It's the most honest language between you and God. There's something sacred about tears. They represent the part of you that refuses to give up. Because if you were truly hopeless, you wouldn't cry anymore. The fact that you still weep means your heart is still alive, still believing that somehow things can change. Tears are not the sign of defeat. They are evidence that you're still fighting, still holding on, still human. God created them not just as a release, as a reminder that He feels what you feel. Scripture says He collects your tears in a bottle. That means not one of them is forgotten. Imagine that the Creator of the universe keeping record of every single tear you've shed. The world may call it weakness, but heaven calls it evidence. When you've been broken by disappointment, when you've lost people you love, when you've faced betrayal, loneliness, or heartbreak, your tears speak volumes. They tell the story of the battle you're fighting within. They cry out for healing, for peace, for answers, for hope. And sometimes God doesn't answer with words. Sometimes He answers with comfort. You wake up one morning and the pain isn't as sharp. The heaviness starts to lift. The strength you thought you lost starts to rise again. That's God responding to the prayers you prayed through your tears. There are seasons when you'll cry and think God isn't listening, but that's when He's listening the most. He doesn't turn away from pain. He leans into it. He draws close to the brokenhearted. When you weep, he bends low to catch every tear. There's not a drop that hits the ground without his notice. You may not see immediate change, but something powerful happens when you weep before him. Your tears water the seeds of your next season. They prepare the soil for your breakthrough. You're sowing pain now, but you'll reap joy later. Sometimes the tears are not from weakness, but from spiritual weight. The burden gets heavy. The people you help walk away. The door you prayed for stays closed. The storm keeps raging and you're tired. You cry not because you lack faith, because your faith has been stretched to its limits. And in that moment, your tears become the bridge between your humanity and God's divinity. It's your way of saying, Lord, I'm tired, but I'm still yours. Your tears are not in vain. God uses them to cleanse your spirit. You can't heal what you refuse to feel, and those tears are washing away the poison of your past. They release what your heart has been holding on to too long. You might not realize it now, but every tear is preparing you for peace. The tears that fell in confusion are making room for clarity. The tears that came from heartbreak are making room for healing. The tears that poured out in pain are making room for purpose. There's a beauty in brokenness that only God can see. You think your tears make you fragile, but they actually make you real. They soften your heart. They make you compassionate. They remind you that you still have the capacity to love and feel deeply. Don't be ashamed of your tears. They are proof that your soul is still sensitive to God. They show that you haven't grown cold. Even after everything you've endured, some people stop crying because they've stopped caring. But you're still open enough to feel, still humble enough to weep before your Creator. That's not weakness, that's strength. God moves in mysterious ways, and sometimes the only thing He requires from you is to release what's hurting you through tears. He doesn't need fancy prayers or perfect words. He just needs your honesty. When you cry, you're saying, God, I'm done pretending. You're surrendering your pride, your control, your image, and you're saying, Lord, I need you. That's when His peace starts to flow in. You'll cry, and in the middle of your crying, you'll feel something shift. It won't make sense, but suddenly you'll sense His presence wrapping around you. You'll realize that even though nothing around you changed yet, something within you did. The most powerful prayers are sometimes wordless. They're the ones you cry with your face in your hands, your knees on the floor, your heart wide open. God hears those. He interprets the pain behind every sob, the hope behind every tear. You may not have said a word, but in heaven's language, you've spoken volume. You've spoken volume. He knows what you meant. He knows what you need. He knows what you're trying to say when all you can do is weep. So don't hold your tears back anymore. Let them fall. Let them speak. Let them tell the story of your survival. Because one day, those same tears that flowed from your pain will become the testimony of your healing. You'll look back and realize that every tear you cried built the bridge that carried you to peace. God heard them all. He counted them all, and He's turning every single one into something beautiful. Your tears are not weakness. They are evidence that your soul still believes in something greater. And that something greater is already listening. Pain is a teacher. It's not the kind of teacher anyone asks for, but it's the one that shapes you the most. You don't learn the depth of your strength and comfort. You discover it in the storm. You don't develop endurance when everything is easy. You find it when life presses you to the edge and you have no choice but to keep standing. Pain has a way of introducing you to yourself. It strips away what's shallow and reveals what's real. It doesn't ask for your permission. It shows up, sits you down, and starts teaching lessons you never knew you needed. There are some things you can only learn through pain. You can read about faith. You won't truly understand faith until everything around you falls apart and you still have to trust that God is good. You can talk about strength, but you'll never know your own until life knocks you down and you find something inside that refuses to quit. Pain brings wisdom that comfort could never give. Teaches you to value peace, to cherish people, to appreciate small blessings you once ignored. When you've walked through fire, you stop wasting time on what doesn't matter. Pain gives you perspective. Sometimes God allows pain, not because he wants to see you suffer, because he wants to see you grow. Growth doesn't happen on the mountaintop, it happens in the valley. The soil of pain is where your roots go deep. You can't become stronger without resistance. Just like muscles only build through tension, your spirit only strengthens through trial. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every loss, they all carry lessons that shape who you're becoming. It's not punishment, it's preparation. You're not being destroyed, you're being developed. You see, pain will teach you what pride never could. It humbles you. It reminds you that you're not in control of everything. It teaches you compassion because once you've been broken, you can recognize that same pain in someone else. You stop judging people so quickly because you've learned how heavy invisible battles can be. You start speaking with more kindness because you remember how much gentle words meant when you were hurting. Pain breaks you open in a way that makes you more human, more real, more like the person God designed you to be. You might not understand it while you're in it. When you're hurting, it just feels like suffering, like you're trapped in a dark place with no light. But later, when you look back, you realize what that pain was doing. It was carving depth into your soul. It was shaping your patience, refining your faith, cleansing your heart from things you didn't need. Pain has a way of burning away what's fake. The false confidence, the pride, the illusion of control, and leaving behind something pure and unshakable. Think about it. Some of your greatest wisdom came after your greatest wounds. The times you said, "I'll never make it through this," are the same moments that became your testimony later. Pain has a strange way of building what it breaks. It breaks your plans, but builds your purpose. It breaks your heart, but builds your empathy. It breaks your strength, but builds your dependence on God. It hurts, yes, but it also heals because it forces you to confront what's real. There are people who learned how to pray not in comfort, but in pain. They learned how to lean on God when everyone else walked away. Pain pushed them into his presence. It forced them to find peace that wasn't dependent on circumstances. And maybe that's why God allows it not to crush you, but to bring you closer to him. You'll never know how strong your faith is until pain tests it. You'll never know the depth of his comfort until pain drives you to seek it. Pain is the fire that reveals your foundation. If what you built your life on is temporary, pain will show it. But if it's built on faith, no matter how fierce the fire gets, you'll still stand. It may shake you, it may scar you, but it won't destroy you. Because pain doesn't have the final word, purpose does. Every painful experience has a lesson hidden inside it. And when you learn that lesson, the pain loses its power to define you. Sometimes you'll ask God, "Why this?" But one day you'll look back and say, "Now I see." Because pain doesn't just change your situation, it changes by you. It takes you from being who you were to who you were meant to become. The things you thought would break you end up building your character. The people who left you taught you independence. The seasons that crushed you taught you endurance. The moments that shattered your heart taught you how to love deeper and forgive quicker. You can't skip the process. You can't bypass pain and expect to grow. There's no shortcut to strength. Every powerful person you've ever admired has a story of pain behind their confidence. They learned their wisdom through wounds. They found their purpose in the middle of their problems. And that's what pain does. It turns victims into victors, sufferers into survivors, ordinary people into extraordinary examples of grace. Don't despise the lessons pain brings. Rush to escape it so quickly that you miss what it's trying to teach you. Sometimes the very thing you're praying for, wisdom, maturity, peace, purpose, is hidden inside the pain you're praying to avoid. Pain is not your enemy, it's your instructor. It's not there to destroy your faith, but to deepen it. It's not there to take from you, but to prepare you for what's coming next. One day, you'll look back on the pain that once made you question everything and realize it made you stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. You'll understand that pain wasn't your punishment, it was your preparation. It was teaching you how to carry peace, how to walk in purpose, how to recognize blessings when they come. Pain doesn't last forever, but its lessons do. And when peace finally arrives, I challenge you to love enough and care enough. You'll be able to stand in it with gratitude because you'll know you earned that peace through the classroom of pain. Brokenness is not the end. It feels like it sometimes, doesn't it? When everything inside you collapses and all that's left are pieces that don't seem to fit together anymore. You reach a point where you feel like you've lost yourself, where you look in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back. You wonder if you'll ever feel whole again, if the ache will ever fade, if the wounds will ever heal. Here's what you need to know. Your brokenness is not where your story ends. It's where something sacred begins. God does some of his best work in broken places. You see, brokenness has a way of bringing truth to the surface. When life shatters around you, all the masks fall away. You stop pretending, stop performing, stop trying to hold it all together. It's in that place of complete surrender that God begins to rebuild you piece by piece, stronger than before. What you thought was destruction was actually reconstruction. You thought it was the end, but it was the beginning of something new, something deeper, something real. There's beauty in the breaking, even if you can't see it now. Brokenness strips you of everything false. The illusions, the pride, the dependence on people who were never meant to complete you. It leaves you raw, vulnerable, and open. And though it hurts, that's the very place where God's grace rushes in. He doesn't despise your brokenness. He meets you in it. While others may walk away when they see your cracks, he leans closer. He takes the shattered pieces of your heart and says, "Watch what I can make out of this." So many times, people run from their brokenness, trying to fix themselves with distractions, pretending they're fine when they're not. But healing doesn't happen by hiding what's broken. Healing begins when you place those broken pieces in the hands of the one who knows how to restore them. It's in the moments when you finally say, "God can't do this anymore," that he steps in and says, "I know, now let me." Brokenness is not your disqualification. It's your invitation to experience his power in a personal way. When you're broken, you start to see life differently. You stop chasing perfection and start craving peace. You stop focusing on what's missing and start valuing what's still standing. Brokenness teaches you to be grateful for the little things. The breath in your lungs, the sunrise that greets you, the people who stayed when others left. It gives you eyes to see grace in places you used to overlook. It humbles you, but it also softens you. You become gentler, wiser, and more compassionate because you know what it feels like to hurt and still have to keep going. God doesn't throw away broken things, he uses them. The world sees brokenness as weakness, but in God's hands, brokenness becomes strength. Think about it. It's the broken soil that grows the seed. It's the broken clouds that bring the rain. It's the broken bread that feeds the hungry. Brokenness releases power. When you're broken before God, his light begins to shine through the cracks. The very areas that once brought you shame become the places where his glory is revealed. What the enemy tried to use to destroy you becomes the very tool God uses to develop you. Sometimes being broken is the only way to get free, because when everything falls apart, you finally let go of what you were never meant to hold. You stop clinging to false security, to relationships that drained you, to dreams that no longer fit the person you're becoming. Brokenness forces you to release what's heavy and make space for what's holy. You might not have chosen the breaking, but if you trust the process, you'll see that it was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to deliver you. You may feel like you're surrounded by ruins right now, but remember this, ruins are where God builds again. You may have lost things that meant everything to you, people, opportunities, seasons, but what you lost doesn't define you. What God is doing next does. You might not understand it today. One day you'll look back and realize that the breaking was the turning point. The place you thought was your ending was actually your rebirth. Brokenness is not failure. It's proof that you tried, that you cared, that you loved deeply enough to be hurt. It's the evidence that your heart has lived. And though you may be scarred, scars are not signs of defeat. They are signs of survival. Every scar tells a story. I was broken, but I'm still here. I fell apart, but I didn't stay down. I wept, I kept walking. Those scars remind you that God's grace met you in the middle of your worst moment and carried you through. The world teaches you to hide your brokenness, but God teaches you to bring it to Him, because He can do more with your broken pieces than you can do with your whole plans. He takes what's shattered and turns it into something sacred. He takes what's painful and turns it into purpose. He takes what's empty and fills it again. You may not know how He's going to do it. Trust that He will. One day, you'll realize that your breaking was a blessing in disguise. It broke your pride, but it built your peace. It broke your plans, but it opened the door to His. It broke your heart, but it taught you how to love from a healed place. You'll see that nothing was wasted. Not a tear, not a trial, not a single moment of pain. Every crack was used to let His light through. So don't run from your brokenness. Don't hide it, and don't be ashamed of it. Bring it to the one who specializes in restoration. Because the same hands that shaped the stars can reshape your story. And when He's done, you'll realize that your brokenness wasn't the end. It was the beginning of beauty you never saw coming. You were never too shattered for God to fix. You were simply being prepared to shine in a way you never could if you had stayed whole. God works in silence. That's one of the hardest lessons to learn, because silence can feel like absence. When you pray and there's no answer, you cry and there's no response, when you search for direction and all you hear is nothing, it's easy to wonder if God has forgotten you. Silence is not abandonment. It's not that God has stopped working. It's that He's working in ways you can't yet see. He's not ignoring you. He's orchestrating something beyond your understanding. Silence doesn't mean inactivity, it means strategy. God does some of His greatest work behind the scenes. There are seasons in life where heaven seems quiet. You've prayed, fasted, waited, believed, still nothing changes. Doors stay closed, people walk away, and time keeps moving. You start to ask yourself, did I miss something? Did I do something wrong? But silence doesn't mean you're out of alignment. Sometimes it means you're right where you're supposed to be. God often speaks loudest through silence. When He's quiet, He's teaching you to trust without proof, to believe without signs, and to hold on without guarantees. Silence is His way of strengthening your faith muscle. Think about the moments in your life when you've grown the most. They weren't during easy times. They were in seasons of waiting when God seemed far away. The silence forced you to dig deeper, to pray harder, to search for Him not in the noise but in the stillness. It's in those quiet spaces that your relationship with Him matures. Because real faith isn't built on constant confirmation. It's built on quiet confidence. The kind of confidence that says, even when I can't hear Him, I know He's near. Even when I can't see what He's doing, I trust that He's doing something. Sometimes silence is God's protection. You think He's withholding something from you, but He's really shielding you from what you can't handle yet. You think the delay means denial. The silence means development. He's preparing you for what you've been praying for. If He gave you what you wanted right now, it might crush you. In the silence, He's shaping your heart, building your character, teaching you patience, and preparing the foundation for the blessing to rest on. The silence is not a punishment. It's preparation for something greater. It's in silence that you learn how to stop chasing voices and start listening for truth. The world is loud. People have opinions. Everyone has advice. God's voice doesn't compete with the noise. It waits for it to fade. That's why sometimes He quiets everything around you, even relationships, even opportunities, so that you can hear Him clearly. He'll remove distractions, cut off connections, and lead you into isolation, not because He's rejecting you, but because He's refining you. He's silencing the chaos around you so that you can finally recognize His whisper within you. You may feel like you're in a silent season right now. Nothing seems to be moving. Nothing seems to be changing. But I promise you, while you're waiting, God is weaving. He's aligning people, timing, and situations in ways that you couldn't make happen on your own. You don't see the movement because it's underground. Just like a seed buried in the soil, it looks silent. It looks still. Something powerful is happening beneath the surface. Roots are forming, foundations are growing, and in time, what was hidden will bloom. God's silence doesn't mean he's forgotten you. It means he's preparing your reveal. When God works in silence, it's often to teach you the power of stillness. We live in a world that glorifies action, but there's divine strength in standing still. When you stop trying to fix everything yourself, when you stop forcing doors to open, when you finally say, God, I surrender, that's when his quiet power begins to move. You might not feel it, but he's turning things in your favor. He's setting the stage for something you won't have to strive for. You'll simply step into it when the time is right. There's a deep trust that grows in the silence. It's the kind of trust that says, even if I don't hear you, I still believe you. It's faith without feelings. It's love without confirmation. It's knowing that just because he's quiet doesn't mean he's gone. The teacher is always silent during the test, not because they've left the classroom, but because they want to see what the student has learned. God's silence is not him abandoning you. It's him testing and refining the faith he's been building in you all along. Sometimes you don't realize what God was doing in the silence until after the fact. One day something will happen. A door will open, prayer will be answered, a situation will suddenly make sense. And you'll realize that the silence wasn't empty at all. It was full of divine activity. While you were worrying, God was working. While you were crying, he was creating. While you were waiting, he was weaving every detail into place. You'll look back and say, now I see why he was silent. He wasn't punishing me. He was protecting me. He wasn't ignoring me. He was instructing me. The silence of God is not the stillness of death. It's the stillness before resurrection. It's the calm before the breakthrough. It's the pause before the promise. When heaven seems quiet, it's because something powerful is being birthed. You don't rush a masterpiece. You don't interrupt a miracle while it's in progress. God's silence is his sign that he's not finished yet. So if you're in a season of silence, hold on. Don't mistake the absence of noise for the absence of movement. God is closer than you think. He's not ignoring your prayers. He's perfecting his plan. When the time is right, the silence will break, the doors will open. Everything you waited for will make sense. And you'll realize that the silence wasn't wasted time. It was sacred time. It was the space where God was writing the parts of your story that couldn't be written any other way. Faith is not built in comfort, it's built in storms. It's easy to believe when everything is going right, when doors open easily, prayers are answered quickly, and when life feels full of peace. But faith is tested and strengthened in the moments when nothing makes sense. When the winds are raging, when the path ahead is unclear, and when your heart feels heavy, that's when real faith grows. Because faith is not about believing that everything will always be easy. It's about trusting that even when everything is falling apart, God is still in control. There are seasons in life when you're going to face storms that shake you to your core. You'll feel the pressure from every side, problems in your finances, conflicts in your relationships, disappointments in your plans, and delays in your dreams. It will feel like everything is against you. But it's in those moments that faith is refined. The fire doesn't destroy the gold, purifies it. The storm doesn't ruin the seed, it waters it. God allows storms not to break you, but to build you. He knows that calm seas never made a strong sailor. When everything is peaceful, you don't need much faith. But when life feels like a battle, when you're holding on with everything you have and still feel like you're slipping, that's when faith becomes real. You start to realize that faith isn't about your feelings, it's about your foundation. Feelings come and go. Sometimes you'll feel strong, other times you'll feel weak. But your foundation remains steady when it's built on trust in God. The storm doesn't change who he is, just reveals how much you truly believe. Every storm has a purpose. You may not see it right away, but there's always something being developed in the middle of the chaos. Sometimes the storm comes to remove what was never meant to stay. It blows away the shallow things, the false dependencies, the fragile supports you were leaning on. When everything around you shakes, you begin to see what's truly unshakable. You learn to stand on faith instead of fear, on truth instead of emotion, and on trust instead of control. The storm strips away what was temporary so that only the eternal remains. You'll never know how strong your faith is until it's tested. It's easy to say, I trust God when life feels stable, but it's another thing entirely to say it when you're surrounded by uncertainty. Faith doesn't mean you won't feel afraid. Faith means you move forward despite the fear. You keep walking even when you can't see the next step. You keep believing even when everything tells you not to. You hold on to the promise even when it looks like it's slipping away. That's what separates faith from fantasy. It doesn't depend on what's visible. It rests on what's eternal. Sometimes storms come not to destroy you, but to direct you. You were sailing one way, comfortable and confident, but God needed to reroute your path. He allowed a storm to rise, not to harm you, but to steer you toward where you truly belong. It's often the winds of difficulty that push you into your destiny. If everything stayed calm, you'd stay in one place forever. The storm forces movement, challenge you to love enough and care, and movement brings growth. You might not like the storm, but one day you'll thank God for it because it pushed you closer to His purpose for your life. Faith in the storm teaches you surrender. When you've done everything you can and still can't control the outcome, you finally learn to let go. You learn that your strength is limited, but His power is limitless. The storm humbles you. It reminds you that you're not the one holding the universe together. And in that humility, you find peace. Because the moment you stop fighting the storm and start trusting the one who commands it, you begin to rest. You realize that He's been in the boat the whole time, even when it felt like He was asleep. The silence during the storm can be terrifying. You pray and it feels like heaven is quiet. You cry out and hear nothing back. But remember, the teacher is always silent during the test. The fact that God is quiet doesn't mean He's absent. It means He's giving you space to apply what He's already taught you. The faith He built in your last season is what will carry you through this one. You don't need a new word. You just need to trust the word you already received. In every storm, there's a lesson. Sometimes it's patience. Sometimes it's perseverance. Sometimes it's learning to depend on God more than yourself. And sometimes it's just the realization that even when everything feels unstable, His presence never changes. The waves may crash, the winds may howl. He remains the same, steady, faithful, unshakable. That's what faith anchors itself to, not the absence of trouble, the presence of a trustworthy God. When you come out of a storm, you're never the same. You come out stronger, wiser, softer, and more grounded. You come out knowing that what tried to break you actually built you. You look back and realize that the storm didn't destroy your faith. It deepened it. It made you depend less on what you could control and more on what you could trust. You stop panicking when storms come because now you know that every wave carries purpose. You've seen God calm seas before, and you trust that He'll do it again. And here's the beautiful truth: storms don't last forever. The rain will stop, the clouds will clear, and the sun will rise again. But the faith you gain from that storm will last a lifetime. It will be the quiet strength that carries you through future battles. You'll stand taller not because you avoided the storm, but because you survived it. And the next time one comes, you'll remember, if God brought me through before, He'll bring me through again. So don't be afraid of the storms. Embrace them as part of your journey. They're not meant to destroy you. They're meant to define you. They strip away what's weak and reveal what's eternal. Faith built in storms is faith that cannot be shaken. It's the kind of faith that stands tall even when the winds roar, because it knows that behind every storm is a promise, and behind every wave stands the one who commands it. There comes a time in every life when you have to learn to release what you can't control. You try to fix it, you try to hold it together, you try to make sense of why things happened the way they did. But at some point, you realize that your strength has limits. You reach a moment where your hands are tired, your heart is heavy, and your mind is weary. That's when God whispers to your soul, let it go. Not because he wants you to lose, but because he wants you to rest. You've been carrying burdens that were never meant for your shoulders. You've been trying to fight battles that only he can win. You've been trying to change people who only he can transform. As long as you keep holding on to what you can't control, you'll keep losing your peace. Sometimes we hold on because we believe that if we just try a little harder, pray a little longer, love a little deeper, maybe things will turn around. We think we can fix everything by our effort, but there's a difference between being faithful and being forceful. Faithful means trusting God with what you cannot handle. Forceful means trying to play his role. You were never designed to carry what belongs to him. He told you to cast your cares, not carry them. Every time you carry something too heavy, you're stepping into a space that belongs to God alone. Letting go doesn't mean giving up, it means giving over. It means saying, God, I've done my part. Now I place this in your hands. It's surrender with trust. It's peace in place of pressure. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. Because the moment you release it, you make room for him to work. When your hands are full of worry, there's no space left for blessings. When you release your grip, you allow his grace to flow in. You'll never experience the peace of God while you're still trying to be the God of your own situation. Some of the hardest things to release are the ones that once made you happy. A relationship that once brought joy, a plan that once made sense, a season that once felt comfortable. But God sometimes allows endings because he knows what's ahead. You're clinging to what was while he's preparing you for what will be. Holding on to something God is trying to remove will only delay your healing. You can't receive new blessings with your hands tightly gripping the past. You have to let go so you can grow. You have to release what was so you can reach what's next. It's painful to let go. It feels like losing control. But that's exactly where real peace begins. Peace isn't found in having everything figured out. It's found in trusting the one who already has it figured out. When you stop trying to control the outcome, you start experiencing the calm that comes from knowing God is in control. The storm may still rage, the fear inside you settles, because peace doesn't come when the situation changes. Peace comes when your heart surrenders. You can't control people, not what they do, not what they say, not how they respond. You can't control the timing of blessings or the delays of life. You can't control what opportunities come or what doors close, but you can control your response. You can choose to trust instead of panic, pray instead of worry, to rest instead of run. The world will always give you reasons to fear, but your faith gives you reasons to stay calm. The moment you stop fighting for control, you start walking in freedom. Some of the most beautiful miracles happen after you release control. When you finally stop trying to manipulate outcomes, you'll see things fall into place on their own. Not by chance, but by divine orchestration. God doesn't need your help, he needs your faith. He needs your willingness to step back so he can step in. You've been holding the pen, trying to write the story your way, but it's time to hand it over to the author. Let him write it. Let him edit it. Let him finish it, because his version will always be better than yours. Think about all the time you spent worrying, how much peace it's stolen, how much energy is drained. Worry changes nothing except your health and your joy. It doesn't move mountains, faith does. It doesn't open doors, prayer does. So every time anxiety starts to rise, make a choice to release it. Speak to yourself and say, this is not my battle. This belongs to God. Because every time you do, you push back the pressure and invite peace in. There's a quiet power in letting go. It's the kind of strength that doesn't shout but stands. It's the strength of someone who knows they don't have to control everything because they trust the one who controls all things. That kind of peace can't be shaken by circumstances. It's not built on perfect outcomes. It's built on perfect trust. The same God who held you yesterday will hold you today. The same God who made a way before will make a way again. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start trusting. It doesn't mean you stop hoping. It means you stop stressing. When you release control, you begin to live lighter. You wake up without that heavy feeling in your chest. You breathe easier because you know the outcome isn't your responsibility anymore. You've done your part. Now let God do his. That's how peace enters. That's how rest returns. That's how strength is renewed. And one day, you'll look back on everything you tried to control and thank God that he didn't let it go your way, because his plan was better. His timing was wiser. His outcome was greater. What you thought was a loss turned out to be protection. What you thought was rejection was really redirection. And what you thought was the end was actually the beginning of something far more beautiful. So release it. The person, the plan, the pressure, the pain. Let it go, not because you're tired, but because you're trusting. Because when you let go, you don't fall. You fall into grace. And that grace will carry you, calm you, and remind you that the peace you've been chasing was never lost. It was just waiting for you to stop trying to control everything long enough to feel it again. There are moments in life when pain feels so deep that it seems impossible to see anything good coming out of it. The heartbreaks, the disappointments, the losses, the betrayals, they leave marks on your soul that you never expected to carry. You start to question why it happened, why it hurt so much, why God allowed it. But what you don't realize in those moments is that pain has a purpose. It may not make sense right now. Every painful experience you've been through is shaping something greater inside of you. The very things that once broke you are the same things that will one day build you. God never wastes pain. He uses it as a tool to prepare, position, purify you for what's ahead. Pain teaches lessons that comfort never can. It reveals what's real. It strips away pride. It breaks false illusions. And it shows you how strong your spirit really is. When you're hurting, you learn to pray differently. You stop using fancy words and start speaking from your soul. You stop pretending to be okay and start being honest with God. Pain doesn't just bring tears, it brings truth. It teaches you what matters most, and it pulls you closer to the only one who can heal the parts of you that no one else can touch. Every person who has ever done something great for God has walked through seasons of pain. You can't have a powerful purpose without a painful process. The pain you feel today is the training ground for the strength you'll need tomorrow. You may not see it yet, but one day you'll look back and realize that the very thing that tried to destroy you actually developed you. The storm that nearly drowned you taught you how to swim. The valley that made you cry showed you how to stand. The rejection that broke your heart became the redirection that guided your destiny. Pain shifts your perspective. It makes you see life differently. Before the pain, you might have taken things for granted. People, time, peace, even your relationship with God. But pain has a way of waking you up. It reminds you that life is fragile and that every breath is a gift. It humbles you. It makes you more compassionate toward others because once you've been broken, you understand brokenness. You stop judging others for their struggles because you know what it feels like to struggle yourself. Pain softens your heart in ways that nothing else can. There are wounds that you carry now that you think are signs of weakness, but they are actually signs of survival. The scars on your soul tell the story of battles you've won. They are not there to shame you, but to remind you that you made it through what was meant to destroy you. Every tear you cried was a seed, and one day that seed will grow into something beautiful. Wisdom, strength, compassion, resilience. God doesn't remove the pain immediately because he's using it to transform you internally. He's not just healing your situation, care enough. He's healing your character. He's building patience where there was impatience, faith where there was fear, humility where there was pride. When you're in pain, it's easy to think you're alone, but you're not. God is closest to you when you're hurting. He's not distant. He's deeply involved. He's walking through the fire with you. You might not feel his presence, but he's there. In the silence, in the stillness, tears. Sometimes he doesn't take away the pain because he's teaching you how to lean on him. The pain keeps you dependent. It keeps you humble. Keeps you aware of how much you need his strength to carry you. Your pain will not be wasted. One day, God will use your story to bring healing to others. The same wounds that once caused you to hide will become the very platform from which you speak hope. When someone else goes through what you've endured, you'll be able to look them in the eyes and say, I know how that feels, I also know that you can make it through. Your pain becomes your purpose when it gives someone else the strength to keep going. What once broke you will become your ministry, your message, your mission. You'll stop asking, why me? And start saying, use me. Sometimes the most powerful people are the ones who have suffered the most because they've learned how to find light in the darkest places. Pain gives you depth. It builds endurance. It teaches you to appreciate peace because you know what chaos feels like. It helps you love more deeply because you know what loss feels like. It grows empathy in you, which is one of the purest reflections of divine love. You begin to understand that your greatest strength didn't come from your easy days. It came from your hardest nights. When you allow God to turn your pain into purpose, you stop running from your past. You begin to see it differently. You stop seeing it as a curse and start seeing it as a classroom. You realize that pain was never meant to define you. It was meant to refine you. Every season of struggle brought you closer to who you were created to be. It burned away the fear, the doubt, the dependence on others for validation. It made you more aware of your divine identity, that even when everything else falls apart, you still have value, you still have calling, and you still have purpose. You may not be able to see it now, but one day everything will make sense. Pain that once seemed unbearable will become the foundation of your strength. The nights you thought you wouldn't survive will become the testimony that helps someone else see the morning. Callan, you'll look back and realize that what you thought was breaking you was actually building you. Because purpose is not born in comfort. It's born in the struggle. So if you're in pain right now, hold on. Don't let the darkness convince you that this is the end. This is the middle. The shaping, the refining, the preparing. Your pain is producing something powerful. What hurt you will one day help you. What crushed you will one day crown you. And when the healing comes, and it will come, you'll understand that none of it was wasted. Every tear, every heartbreak, every trial was a step toward becoming who you were always meant to be.